Now, tarantulas are among some of the most misunderstood species on this planet. In fact, there may be as many misconceptions about tarantulas as there are known facts. So today we're going to count down the top 10 strange facts about tarantulas. Welcome to the Tarantula Collective. My name is Richard, and if you enjoy videos about tarantulas, scorpions, and other invertebrates, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell. Turn on all notifications so you're alerted every time I upload new content. Now today we're going to be talking about some weird or strange things about tarantulas that maybe you know about, maybe you don't. But if you know some strange facts about tarantulas that I don't mention in this video, be sure to tell us about it down below in the comments. So for number 10, the strange fact about tarantulas is that they actually got their name from another spider. In Italy, there is a wolf spider called the Lycosa tarantula. That's not a tarantula, it's a wolf spider. But as Italians and other Europeans began to travel the world exploring, essentially any hairy terrestrial spider they found, they referred to as a tarantula. They just didn't know any better. The term tarantula began to get used to describe essentially any hairy terrestrial spider that wasn't already described. The name is derived from a city in Italy called Taranto, where you can usually find these wolf spiders. So that's an interesting little piece of history for you. Now, another interesting fact, which we'll call number 9, is that tarantulas' webs have many different uses. Tarantulas don't build webs like most spiders do. In fact, they don't really use their webbing to entrap prey at all. A lot of tarantulas, especially fossorial species, will use their webbing to line the inside of their burrow, which adds more stability to their tunnels. Tarantulas will also cover the area outside of their burrow with webbing, but not to ensnare prey. It's used more like tripwires, so they can determine exactly where prey might be, as well as how large it is, and whether they should pounce on it for food or run and hide. Tarantula silk is also used a lot in the reproduction process. When mature, males will typically flip on their back and make a sperm web, and females use this silk to build an egg sac to protect their eggs from the elements. Many species of tarantula will also make a molting mat, where they weave their silk into a mat that they lay on when it's time to molt. And recently, scientists have discovered that tarantulas can actually produce silk from their feet. Researchers in Germany mistakenly stumbled across this fact while studying the Aphonopelma samani, and they noticed the tarantula was secreting a gooey silk from their feet. Most spiders can only produce their silk from their spinnerets, but apparently tarantulas can produce them from their spinnerets and their feet, which is just strange. The number 8 strange fact about tarantulas is that some of them cohabitate with other species. For example, the Colombian lesser black tarantula, known scientifically as Xenethus ammonis, often shares its burrow with a small frog. Now, this relationship is mutually beneficial, as a tarantula protects the frog from predators, while the frog protects the tarantula's burrow and egg sacs from ants and other insects or parasites that might cause it harm. There are a few other species of tarantulas that exhibit similar behavior, not to mention a handful of species that will actually live communally with tarantulas from the same species. For example, the Monocentrophus balfouri, or the Socotra Island blue baboon, and the Poecilotheria metallica, or the Goody sapphire ornamental. Both of these species have been shown capable of sharing an enclosure, even though the large majority of tarantulas must be kept separately. So it's fascinating when you see or hear about a tarantula that will live communally with its own species or another species. Typically, tarantulas are cannibalistic, so not only will they assume anything that crosses their path is potential prey, but even tarantulas of the same species that are in their vicinity can be seen as prey. Number 7 is that touch is tarantula's strongest sense. Even though they have 8 eyes, vision is not the strongest sense of a tarantula. Every species of tarantula is covered with fine hair, which is called setae. It's all over their legs, pedipalps, and abdomen. And even though it looks like hair, it is definitely not fur. This setae is extremely sensitive. It's like having hundreds or thousands of tiny eardrums all over their body. They use this setae to sense vibrations, changes in airflow, and chemical signatures in the air to detect and get away from predators, as well as identifying and pouncing on their prey. So it is safe to say a tarantula can feel you coming way before you even see it, which is why when I walk down into my basement, I can usually see tarantulas darting for their hides before I even made a noise or gotten anywhere close to their enclosure. The number 6 bizarre fact about tarantulas is is that they move faster when it's warm and slower when it's cool. Unlike us, tarantulas don't have bones and muscles. They have exoskeletons, meaning their skeletal structure is on the outside of their body. And instead of muscles, tarantulas use a liquid called hemolymph. Essentially, it works like a hydraulic pump, and they use pressure to move the liquid back and forth, which extends or flexes their legs. Scientists have discovered through a bunch of different experiments that temperature actually affects the physical properties of the hemolymph. When the temperatures are cooler, the hemolymph is thicker, meaning it takes more pressure to flex and extend the legs. And when it gets warmer, the hemolymph is thinner, which means it doesn't require as much pressure to flex and extend. So if you're keeping your tarantulas in warmer conditions, you can guarantee they're going to be a lot faster than maybe they are in the winter. Now, this strange fact causes a lot of people undue stress. So number 5 is the fact that tarantulas can go months or even years without eating. Adult tarantulas have been observed surviving years without any food. They have a very efficient digestive system, which gives them the ability to go months or years without ever eating. Even though they don't have to eat regularly, they do need access to water to survive. This has a lot to do with the metabolism of the tarantula and their unique physiology. They don't do much breathing when they're sitting still, so they're not burning a whole lot of energy. So when a tarantula is motionless, it's essentially in sleep mode, consuming very, very small amounts of energy. So if they're not doing a lot of digging and burrowing and exploring, they're not breathing a lot, they're not using much energy, and they don't need to eat. Even spiderlings and juveniles can go weeks sometimes without eating. But even if a tarantula is not eating for months at a time, it is vital that they have access to water. The number 4 strange fact about tarantulas is they have claws like a cat. At the end of each of their legs, tarantulas have 2 or 3 small claws that are retractable, and around these claws are fine bristles, also known as scopula. And this gives them the ability to climb trees, walls, and even smooth surfaces like glass and plastic. Which is why it is important, even if you have a terrestrial or a fossorial tarantula, that you have a tight-fitting lid that can be locked down. Because every species of tarantula is capable of climbing the smooth plastic or glass walls of the enclosure, and even brace themselves so they can push up on the lid. So make sure you got a tight-fitting lid and you lock it down securely. Coming in at number 3 is the fact that tarantulas can't digest solid food. We all know that tarantulas really enjoy eating small invertebrates like crickets, roaches, and mealworms. But you may not know they cannot digest the prey the same way that we and other mammals eat food. Tarantulas actually secrete digestive enzymes from their mouth onto their prey, which breaks down the exoskeleton and essentially dissolves whatever it is that's in their fangs. Then they use their mouth to suck up the liquid, kind of like an insect smoothie. They have hairs all around their mouth that will filter out even the smallest particles of solid matter. And once they're done eating, they leave what's called a bolus, or a ball of, it almost looks like burnt charcoal. It's just the leftover undigestible pieces of their prey. Number 2 is a fact that you may not be aware of, and that is that tarantula venom can have medicinal properties. For instance, in Australia, scientists have been studying the venom of the Hoplopelma schmidti, or the Chinese bird spider. This tarantula is native to southern China and Vietnam and is known to have a very painful venom. Researchers began studying this venom and discovered it has a protein that binds to pain receptors in the body. And by slightly altering this protein, they are able to block the perception of pain in that pain receptor. And because the drug created from this venom is so strong and precise, a very small amount of it is needed, which greatly minimizes the risk of side effects and addiction. Another example would be the scientists in San Francisco that have been studying the venom of all different types of animals in an effort to determine what controls different types of pain so that they could develop more effective pain medications. While studying the toxins in the venom of the Heteroscota maculata or the Toga starburst baboon tarantula, they discovered it attacked the same channels that when mutated can cause epilepsy, which is an exciting discovery because it means that the toxins within the HMAX venom can possibly be used to develop a drug to treat epilepsy. And the number 1 fact about tarantulas that you may not be aware of is that a lot of species are becoming threatened and endangered. As time goes on, more and more species of tarantula are bordering on extinction due to urban sprawl or habitat destruction for logging and farming, as well as people killing or exterminating them based on superstition or just plain fear, as well as illegal collection in the wild and smuggling of tarantulas for the pet trade. It's sad to see every few years more and more species species of tarantulas being added to the CITES protection or showing up on threatened and endangered species lists, which is why it is so important to make sure that you're only buying captive bred tarantulas and not supporting the illegal collection, smuggling, and trade in these species. And it is also important that as a community, we're supporting conservation efforts to protect these threatened and endangered species in the wild so they can continue to be an integral part of their ecosystem and be around for generations to come. Well, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of my top 10 lists, just click this playlist right here. And if you want to see my nature documentary style video on the Aphonopelma chalcodes, just click this video right here. As always, I appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you want to see more. Only buy captive bred tarantulas, and I will see you next time.